Hi, my name's Zane, and today we're going to be going through Final Cut Pro 10 and managing and importing media. Alright, so from Final Cut Pro, this is actually using Final Cut Pro 10.1.2, so there's been a couple of little changes with this, so just make sure your software's up to date before you start doing this tutorial. There are a couple of changes in the most recent update to do with how it manages these libraries and where everything's stored. So what are libraries? Well, from 10.1, Apple kind of introduced a new way of kind of managing all your media in here. Instead of doing it by drive, it's done in these little packaged media libraries, which look a little bit like this. Okay, so just you can see there's a couple temporary ones in here I've been playing around with. If you have a look in here, you can actually see where everything's stored. Okay, so you can see, for example, here's the render files. Okay, so if you need to recover some space, you can actually just delete that whole folder. It will get recreated the next time you open up your projects. It will re-render everything. The original media is all stored in here as well, so if you need to get a copy of something, you can actually go and recover it. But normally you wouldn't have anything to do with this. You wouldn't even have to worry about it. What's really cool is that I can move media around directly from within Final Cut to different drives, so I could create a new library, so I could file new library, and maybe it was going onto a temporary drive, and it was for Bob. I'm just going to do this directly on my local drive. I could create it on a local drive, move everything onto it, and then take that entire library, give it to Bob, and he can just open up that library and everything will work. There's no reconnecting media and all that sort of carry on that used to be so painful. You know, you'd move, rearrange all your libraries and everything would fall apart. So it's a very nice nice way of working. So here's Bob's thing, and let's say we've got a little job for Bob. We're going to create a new project, and I'm just doing this on my Mac hard drive, right? Okay, so here's an untitled project, and it's got a lava lamp, this one here, right? So I'm just going to put that into there. So I need Bob to do some special effects on that. So now all I do is I just grab untitled project here, or maybe I'll rename that for Bob, and I'm just going to drag it. Now I could have a copy of it, or I could actually move it to that folder. So okay, I don't want this, I'm going to move it over to the Bob library. Do I want to take optimized media and proxy media? I could do if I want to, but I'm not. And boom, it moved it. Okay, so it's no longer on my Macintosh hard drive library, it's over here in the Bob library. And notice, not only did it take the project, okay, or the timeline if you're old school, it also took the media that you need to recreate this project. So now I can actually, if we go and have a look over here in my movies folder, here's Bob, and if I right click on here, show the contents, you can actually see here's the original media, and it's copied that over as well. So, and then I can just move that library wherever I like, and I can also close that library, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So really convenient. Also really good for archiving projects. Used to be a real pain in the bum. You'd have to archive everything, all those B takes, B rolls, and out of focus cuts and everything. You end up backing up the whole lot because there's no other way. And really all you want to do is go, right, here's my cut, that's a finished product, I'm not going to make any changes to it, just need to archive it. You can just grab that project, move it to your archive, it grabs all the media with it, and away it goes. So it's really convenient. Alright, let's import some media. So we can either go File, Import Media, or go Command I. Now I'm just going to talk briefly about using keyboard shortcuts, and you'll hear me talk about keyboard shortcuts a lot. It's a really good idea to get into the habit of using keyboard shortcuts, and the big reason is for RSI or OOS, okay, that's repetitive strain injury or occupational overuse syndrome, which basically means that if you're going to be using your computer a lot, and with editing you can spend hours editing, and if you're only using, for example, the mouse, you're constantly using one set of muscles over and over and over. Now you can have little breaks and rests, but you can also alternate the way that you work with your computer. You can get separate hardware, so you can get get a jog dial for moving your timeline around. There's complete control surfaces you can use, but you have a keyboard in front of you, and so using that reduces the amount of time that you're using the mouse, and it speeds up your workflow because you become a Final Cut Pro ninja, and you will wow your friends with your amazing abilities. Now, I'm just going to click on one of these clips here. Sorry, Duncan and Richie. You've just starred in my latest video. I suppose I have to get a release form or something from them. Anyway, so I've just clicked on a QuickTime movie. Now, this was shot on the 60D, I think, Canon SLR. And you'll see that there's a few little options in here. The SLRs and a lot of cameras will shoot to a single file, so in this case a QuickTime movie. And you'll see that it's got a few other options in here. Now, this uses H.264, and that's a very heavy compression. It's not ideal. Obviously, you want to really want to use a RAW format or even MPEG-2 variants are a much better option. Mainly because H.264 requires a lot of processing power to sort of encode and decode it. So there is the option though of creating optimized media. And so what that will do is it will transcode it to a different format. In this case it will be QuickTime ProRes 422, I believe. And that optimized media has got lower overheads for the computer to deal with. The file size will be larger, but your editing and applying of filters and effects and that sort of stuff will be much quicker. So especially if you're on a struggling machine, working with SLR footage, very good idea. Create proxy media will basically just create a small version of your clip. So usually I think it's half resolution and uses ProRes proxy format, I believe. And the cool thing with that is that most of the time anyway, you're not looking at the full HD image. It's usually at 50%. So while you're editing, it doesn't look any different. All of your edits are much quicker, applying filters much quicker, and all that sort of carry on. The only time it will cost you is that when you go and export, it's going to have to go and re-render stuff using the original media or the optimized media. But it's a nice way of working. I'm not going to bother with any of these in this case because it's not necessary. You can create these later, by the way, and you can also, and then I think from 10.1.2 onwards, you can store these in a different location as well, which is quite cool. So you could have if you've got a really fast SSD drive in your computer, you could say, well, store the optimized media or the proxy media on that, and everything else is going on a different drive, and we'll have a look at that shortly. Copy to library and files, leave files in place is a very convenient option. If you're doing something like this and it's a little project, I would recommend that you copy it to the library. Okay, that means that if it's coming off the camera, obviously it has to happen like that. If it's file-based systems like XD-cam footage, which I'll show you in a second, that won't be an option. It has to copy it to the library. If it's media, for example, that you've composited, so it might have been something you've done in motion, and you've exported, a QuickTime movie from that, I always have that leave files in place. And the reason for that, it means that I can go jump back into motion, make some changes, and I just overwrite that file, so that exported QuickTime file. And as long as it hasn't changed in length, okay, so as long as it's exactly to the frame the same length, it will just swap the media inside Final Cut, and it's a really painless workflow. Maybe I'll show that at some point in the future, but otherwise, yeah, you want copy to library. We've also got a few other little things in here, keywords. So in OS X you can apply tags to things, so it might be personal or interior or whatever. You can actually organize a lot of that from inside of OS X, and it will actually attach those finder tags inside Final Cut as well. Quite nice. From folder, so if you've been quite I'm trying to think of a polite way of saying it. If you've been very organized and your folders, it's all like Sunset Studios, projects, tutorials, whatever, it'll actually grab all those folder names and use those as tags. Find people, we'll run this through and see what happens. although I think the camera's just wandering around in this case. It's just us playing about, or me playing about while the boys were doing a big scripting session. So that will actually try and find it, and it kind of separates into 2 shots and wides and close-ups and that sort of carry on. You can do that afterwards if you want to. And we can also analyze for balanced color. So if it's a quick job, someone's 21st or something, just running around with the family, that's quite convenient. If it was something quite specialized, so I'm just going to cancel that for a second. Let's go down to here, okay, where I've got a lava lamp. Looks like some rolling shutter effect happening there. Because it's all green, analyzing for color is probably not a very good idea. Okay, it's going to ruin it. Now notice, see XD cam footage, has to copy it to the library, it can't leave it in place. I think it's because it's a file-based system, perhaps, I don't know. And it also grays out optimized media, and that's probably due to the fact that XD cam footage is beautiful to work with. You don't have to transcode it, you can edit it directly. It's really fast, and it is as good as it's going to get anyway. I'm not sure what happens actually after I've imported. I might be able to have the option of changing it to optimized media. We'll have a look. But we can create proxy media here as well. We've also got find people, etc., etc. So I wouldn't do analyze for color. Now the audio options. Now you could just go import and then fix this later. However, there's a couple options in here that are almost vital, and when you don't do it right, it comes back to haunt you. Separate mono and group stereo audio. So in this case, I had, I believe, a shotgun microphone plugged into the camera. So that is a mono channel. Okay, it's no left and right. It's channel 1 and channel 2. So I could have had a lapel mic and a boom mic. So that will separate it into 2 mono channels. Otherwise, you'll end up with your boom mic in the left ear and the lapel in the right ear, and then you have to go through and say, no, these are mono channels. And if you've imported hundreds of clips, ouch, it's a bit painful doing that. Remove silent channels. So if you've got, if you've just used a shotgun and the right channel has got no audio in it, this will automatically remove it, so you no longer see lots of empty channels. Also, really vital, some cameras will have like 8 channels of audio, so for surround sound, and the camera only uses 2 channels, left and right, but the file format supports 8 channels. And so what happens is you go and import these clips, and you've got 2 channels that you're using, or even 1 channel that you're using, and 6 empty channels, which you can go through and delete, but again, it's just annoying. So that will automatically remove those silent channels. Actually, before I do that, let's do that. Okay, let's go import, and we'll import it, and so it's imported into untitled project. Okay, here it is, and you can see that the here's the video, it's got color, cool. There's nothing in there yet, and if I drag it into here, actually it would appear, sorry, I've got a new project, we'll call this importing. It actually appeared that I had no audio channels on this. Yeah, see, so it's removed the audio channels, so I must have had the microphone switched off, which is quite obvious, it's just a lava lamp. All these, you see this, so this one here had audio on it, and you can see under the audio channels, it's got 2 stereo, so if it's dual mono, which actually I think it is dual mono, because you can actually see the audio signals are different. I had a boom. So obviously when I imported that yesterday, I didn't change the options in the import. Now another cool thing you can do in here, if you had multiple takes inside one of these clips, so you can actually, or even you started rolling and then the director started giving directions to the actor, which happens all the time. You can actually just set your in and out points in here, give yourself some handles or some lead in and lead out time. Okay, so maybe I wanted it so that was the in point. I'm going to start the clip a bit earlier. It means I can fade in or on the other end fade out. Okay, so always just give yourself a little bit extra space. Import selected. This will actually have the same settings it had for the last one. So it's going to add it to that event. I could create a new event, of course, but not interested in that. And go import. Okay, and now it's imported that portion of a clip. Okay, which is really handy, especially sometimes you'll get multiple takes in the same clip. So you didn't get a chance to stop the camera and start it again. So you can actually import those separately, and that's the best time to do it. Cool, and there's our 2 takes. Now let's just go back to the media here. So if you actually click on the media, if this isn't showing, you can collapse this. Here you can actually see where the media is stored. Okay, consolidate means it's going to bring everything into one place. Original media will be consolidated into the library. Okay, so if it was being separated out, you can change that. There's actually some settings in here as well, modify settings. So this is where the media is being stored, so you can actually say where you want the media to be stored. Likewise with the cache, so you could have a separate folder for storing the cache in. Okay, so, and also where the backups are stored. So by default, it's actually in Final Cut Backups, which I think is in the Movies folder. But you can change that as well. So maybe you want the backups on your, on a separate drive. So if you lose anything, if that drive fails, you've got them somewhere else as well, or maybe it's been disconnected or whatever. Cool. So that's very convenient. That's actually only available from 10.1.2, I believe, onwards. Yeah, and this is just another way of seeing it. So you can see here's the media, it's stored there. That's where the cache is in the library, and Final Cut Backups. So yeah, your cache and your backups don't have to be in the same library. Media locations, so it's just saying how much space I've got in each. So the temp RAID is almost full. And that's about it, really. So that's importing media. Actually, I will talk a little bit about some other things. Let's say we want to add some keywords here. So if you actually go to keywords, we can say, rich. And now you'll actually see that we've got all of the clips automatically organized into photos with Richard in it. Or let's say lava lamp, right? So I can go lava lamp. Cool, there's lava lamp. That's also got lava lamp in it. So I can go lava lamp. Cool. And so now I've got lava lamp and rich. Cool. And it's a really nice, convenient way of organizing it. You can also actually just make smart lists. Now, in this case, it hasn't happened like that, but let's say if these had file names that were a little bit more logical, I could have done a smart list on that as well, just based on the file name. And if you go new, where is it? New smart collection. Cool. No, I didn't remember it. Okay, so if you double click on it, you can actually sit in here and say, right, I want, like ratings, so you can actually rate it. You can say keywords. I'm not sure what people is. What has that got? Oh, 2-person. So that's actually where it's figured out that there's people in the shots. So when you import it, you could have analysed for people. I usually use this though to base things on file name. See, so if I had the where is it? Text includes let's say Bob. Okay, then I'll go into here. Let's call that Bob. And there's Bob. Okay, so if you've actually named all your clips nicely, so you might have, scene 1, wherever it says scene 1, it'll pop it in here. So really, really convenient, especially when you're doing lots of post stuff. It's a really nice way of just quickly inputting everything with names. In fact, can you do it here? That's what we can. No, you can't. So yeah, anyway, that's importing. And our next lesson will be on editing, and I'm going to go through 3 different ways of editing, and a lot to do with the magnetic timeline, which has got some really cool features. Alright, till then, laters.